Okay, guys, we are back, and guess what I have? An Ethernet cable. So hopefully, yeah, the days of these videos freezing are behind us. And if not, I don't know what to do, okay? Yeah, did it really take me a freaking long time to realize how the internet worked? And I should probably just like plug my computer to the internet? Sure, okay? But I never claimed to be smart. I just claimed to be realistic. And that's acknowledging my flaws, as well as acknowledging the flaws of other people. And yeah, you know what that means. We're back. We're going to watch part 4 of the Fab Fatties podcast. It's going to be the final part, guys. Okay, we're going to sit here until it's done, and we are not leaving, okay? I also have a special video announcement tomorrow. I can't wait for you to see it. And I'm also excited that, like, my Lent series is done, right? Because I was doing inverted Lent where I was basically putting a video out for every single day of Lent, and I did it. Can't believe it. What spurred it on was me buying Sabrina Carpenter tickets and me being like, oh, I think I need to like go back on YouTube and start making some money to afford these tickets. Yeah, I know. I'm losing fat as well as funds. Anyways, guys, yeah, let's get started. Let's hop right into it. If this is the first video you clicked on for whatever reason, go back and watch parts 1, 2, and 3. But we're watching the Fat Fatties because they are talking about small fat and all the smaller sizes and the privilege that comes with being at a smaller size of fat versus the larger sizes of fat. What have we learned? Not much. There's a lot of talk about fashion. There's a lot of tears. And we learned about the categories. Always the categories. Okay, let's get started. I have my drink. I hope you have one too. No, I'm not sponsored, but hey, I'll take it if you want to give it to me. These things are delicious. Hopefully, I won't have to spike it halfway through this video. Okay, we got 16 minutes to sort through. Wish me luck. Okay, here we go. Into the belly of the beast. I didn't mean that how it sounded, okay? Sorry.
So I think just saying like, I'm just laying it on the fashion. Like I think that they do have far less frustrations, but body image is universal. 100%. I agree with you on that all day long, right? Because again, the the biggest starlet in the world, right? Her biggest fear is being fat. Body image is universal. Access is not.
Okay, if you forgot what they were talking about, they were having this like really weird argument about how is it valid that everybody has their own body issues, and is it smaller fat people and mid-sized people's fault for the reason why the supposed struggles of larger people in society are not taken seriously. They had a disagreement. The this one is saying, you know, they have less frustration, their body issues are valid, but people like Taylor Swift in her music video of like, what was it, Antihero, her biggest fear is being fat, right? It's being fat. Just goes to show just how oppressed they are in society because nobody wants to be fat. And the thing that we all have an issue with in regards to that is like, why would you want to be fat? Now, they're going to say it's about treatment. It's because people don't want to be treated like fat people. No one wants to acknowledge that for a lot of people, it's about health. And also, even if we take health out of the equation, people just want to feel good. People want to feel like they look good. And often, you looking good doesn't require the validation of other people saying that you look good, because we all know that confidence matters, and the amount of confidence you have and how you look can really, like, you can project, you know, attractiveness in that way. But regardless, there's nothing wrong with that. You're allowed to want to look your best. And Taylor Swift was dealing with some behaviors, okay? We know about that. She confessed to it in her documentary, and they were referencing it too in the last part. But they're still upset that her greatest fear is being fat. And honestly, I think they're offended by it. I mean, I fear being fat too. I mean, I think that's the actual definition here of fat phobia: fear of fatness. I don't want to be fat anymore. It has nothing to do with how society treats me. It has nothing to do with me not wanting to die at a young age. That should be reason enough.
So I might disagree with you. You know,
I wasn't talking in reference to access. I
Sure.
100% acknowledge that the smaller you are, the more access you have. Period.
Yeah.
Right? I think I was disagreeing in the sense that the harm comes from the mid-size to straight size.
And I'm not attacking mid-size anything, right? I do feel that some of these terms, that basically anything under fat, right, have come about in a way to almost say like, well, I know that I'm not, societally this, but I'm definitely not that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm not putting that all on mid-size. Where I saw a lot of that damage was just people in smaller bodies in general, right? In straight size. And right now I am going to lump mid-size into straight size because they wear straight size. Mid-size does fall into the straight size category, right? So I'm going to lump straight size right now into where what I really saw was during the pandemic was there were a lot of very small, or really kind of just a lot of straight size folks that were not accepting of all bodies, but because their daily lives changed, their daily routines changed, they saw their bodies changing, and therefore then were like, "Oh, I'm body positive. I'm body positive. Everybody is body positive." But it still didn't really what I saw, it still wasn't applying to anything above a straight size.
I paused it and I'm seeing the confused look on her face because I was also confused and I just wanted to comment on my confusion. So she's basically saying that during COVID, a lot of people gained some COVID weight. We all did, right? A lot of us did. The gyms were closed. We were all comfort eating. People were stressed out. They were engaging in the binge. There was just a lot going on. Nobody was having a good time. What I think is very interesting about this is that she's making how people reacted to that all about fatness and body positivity when there was so much more going on. I mean, people seem to have weird COVID amnesia where they like forgot just how bad it was. Like that time was really harsh. We were all stuck in our homes in some states for like a year. Definitely like Michigan. That's why I left Michigan. I was like, I can't stay inside anymore. I moved to Indiana and then I moved to South Carolina. And then I only basically came back to Michigan when things had like normalized. But there was so much more than just like body positivity of kind of just like having an acceptance of the way things were, because acceptance is sometimes important for your state of mind in order to make it through very stressful situations. I know I have some friends where they're going through very stressful situations. You just kind of have to like let go of certain things. And there was a lot more than just like body weight that was going on. It was like people were dropping routines. People were dropping, like a lot of habits and things that they've been doing for years because they couldn't do it anymore. They had to be okay with it, right? I remember there was this one thing where people are like, if you have all this time at home, maybe you should be losing weight. You can finally like focus on yourself. And there was this argument saying, yes, people could be doing that, but some people are just so stressed out that maybe you should go easy on yourself. I'm not like vouching for one or the other position because obviously I did gain weight over COVID. I didn't gain all my weight over COVID. I was already fat going into COVID, but dang, I don't think I would have gotten as fat as I did if not for COVID. But I also wasn't buying into body positivity. But I could see why some people were, because it kind of to be like, we all gained a little bit of weight, guys. We got to be kind to ourselves and just have some grace about that. But we had to have grace about a whole bunch of other things as well. The world changed. And it's interesting to me that they're looking at it in this like lens. It just kind of goes to show they can't see the world through any other lens than their own bias towards, I guess, like the fat worldview of like what they consider the fat worldview, their own worldview. They see everything through their identity of being fat. And that's why I don't make fat part of my identity. Yeah, I might declare myself small fat soon, hint, but it's not who I am. So yeah, I kind of get the confused look on her face. Let's see if she continues to agree or if they're gonna like argue about it some more. I want to see. I kind of feel like there's a lot of reinforcement of behavioral thinking in this podcast, and I just want to see just how far it goes.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. What did you see?
I saw a lot of fitness influencers. I saw a lot of
what I'm picturing is like the one person that bends over like, I have a single roll. Like that's what I imagine.
And I'm body positive.
Which isn't a bad thing to post. It's just are you acknowledging that there's lots of other bodies out there? That's what I'm imagining when you're talking about this.
And that's exactly what I'm thinking of. That's that because they're not acknowledging. They're not acknowledging and they're not holding space for the people that actually really need the positivity from the body positivity movement.
I feel like that's where, sorry, I will pass it to you right now, but I do feel like that's where fat liberation came in. We were like, you can't take fat liberation from us because you're straight size. Like you are not fat. That is factual, right? Versus the body positivity, it was universal. I think that's where like,
well, it wasn't.
The woman with the glasses, I can't remember her name. She's not an honest arguer. It's interesting. The woman in the white shirt, she actually is. And like, I'm not saying I agree with any of their positions, although the woman in the white shirt, I actually like, I understand where she's actually coming from. The woman in the glasses is moving the goalposts of her argument in order to make the point that she wants to make, which is where she's mad at people who are smaller than her. And she wants to blame them for what she perceives as the lack of acceptance towards her. And she'll say people who are larger than her, but what she really is talking about is her. This is something that happens in fat acceptance often, where they'll use people in different situations as props to prop up their own position and eventually just make it about themselves. But when they like use stupid terms like holding space and acknowledging these certain things, it's like not everybody's an activist, but you're expecting them to care about these other things about this small group of people. And you have to understand that everybody has their own problems that they're dealing with. And if that's the problem they want to focus on today, then that's what it is. But not everybody's an activist. I really hate millennial activism, where it's just like, you need to remember and consider every single person who ever existed in all the different intersectionalities of that thing. And it's like, nobody has that much space to hold. I'm sorry. Everybody's allowed their own special interests. And I think the woman in the white shirt is absolutely right that that's where fat liberation did come in. Now, fat acceptance and fat liberation have both been around for a very long time. Body positivity did start out as something of a fat liberation movement, and it was embraced by other people and got mainstream. But fat liberation, that definition very much came as a response to the body positivity movement to say, this is the activism. The problem is, I don't think the woman in the glasses wants that separation, because then somebody can say, I'm body positive, but I'm not about fat liberation. Versus a woman in the white shirt is saying, there is a separation of these two things. Maybe that should be acknowledged. Body positivity, not inherently political these days. I think Lizzo actually said in an interview, well, it used to be political. And it's like, yeah, it did. The terms just keep changing. But fat liberation today is the most political term. It's a Marxist adjacent movement. I say adjacent and not full on, simply because most people who are in it are Marxists, they are socialists, but a lot of socialists don't want them because they see being fat as a part of the capitalist system and as a result of capitalism, but also something that props up capitalism more than anything. And people in fat liberation will say that it's a result of capitalism, but does not support capitalism. And that they'll say things like it's a radical stance against capitalism because capitalism enforces beauty standards. I know it's a lot of confusing stuff, but like, this is what they say. But then, like I said, there's the other Marxists and other socialists say that they don't want it. They're like, guys, you're really propping up the food industry. Anyways, let's continue watching the argument. I want to see what happens.
Right? Body positivity was started by amazing fat black
100%. That's what I was saying before. And then it became something it wasn't.
Yeah.
And that's where I think fat liberation then was born, because straight sized or smaller folks can't take that.
Yeah, to me, it's like the difference between I feel fat versus I am fat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's body image is everybody, but actual experience of fatness and how it affects your life is not everybody.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think one thing important that I want to note for people listening, but also for both of you as you're thinking about these terms, is like, when we think about what people are doing with the term midsize, it's not the everyday Joe Schmo. No offense to any Joe Schmoes, y'all living your life, who are identifying as midsize and looking for content that talks about being midsize. It's the people who are publicly creating a discourse about midsize. That's influencers.
Yes.
That's people tagging it on Instagram. That's people making everything they put. I purposely went to YouTube this morning and typed in midsize. Now, I follow this girl named Carrie Dayton who does fashion content, thrifting content. She identifies as midsize. I think it's important for her to identify as midsize. She's a size 14, 16. She shops at plenty of straight size places that do not fit her correctly. She has shopped plus size, and then she'll show what's the difference between an XXL at Target and what's the difference between a 1X or 2X at Target. She shows that stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
I think she's super educational. She is midsize. She is not plus size. She is midsize, and sometimes her access gets a little wobbly. And I think she does a beautiful job of sharing that.
Sure.
When I'm also going down it, one of the things is, do I look good or do I just look skinny? And I'm like, eek! And I think the proximity to thinness for mid-sized folks can still mean a lot of the influencers are utilizing their proximity to thinness to market themselves.
We're talking like influencers.
Yeah, and I do think when I think of the term mid-size, I'm not thinking about my cousin who would probably describe herself as mid-size. Not thinking about my friend who would describe themselves as mid-size, because they're just going about living their life and having some different experiences in stores. Okay.
100%.
Okay, guys, if you watched the last part when they're talking about access is more than just fashion, and yet literally 90% of the like examples they're using for access it's about fashion. Her access is wobbly because these pants don't fit her properly. There are bigger problems in the world. How many pairs of pants do you actually need? How many pairs of jeans do I have? Well, geez, the ones that don't fit me anymore because they're too big, I'm gonna have to get rid of those. I guess like donate them or something. But the ones that I have that fit me right now, 3 pairs. I got 3 pairs of jeans. Okay. Do I need any more jeans? No. I have a ton of shirts. I have a ton of undershirts. I'm still wearing the 1X shirts occasionally because they fit, and they're a little bit big, but they're not that like too big where it looks weird. The 2X shirts though, I cannot wear at all anymore. Like even when I wear my 2X sweatshirt, like that thing drowns me. Like the orange one that I love. And I was so happy that I found it in a size large. I got it like on clearance at Torrid. And I was like, well, hey, I'm gonna be wearing this into the smalls, right? Because I don't care if it drowns me when I'm small. It's just an oversized sweatshirt at that point. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like, how many pairs of pants do you need? How many shirts do you need? What they actually care about is access to fashion in airplanes, apparently. And it's like literally just those two things that they talk about over and over and over again. Or else they would have found different examples by now. And we're how many minutes into this podcast? We're on minute 47. And they're still talking about fashion and claiming it's access discrimination.
I'm thinking of the people who are creating a public discourse around the idea of mid-size.
Interesting.
100%.
I have not viewed this conversation from that lens. I have viewed it from like a universal lens. So I do think that is
Yeah.
an interesting bit. I do think people who are actively in the fat community, regardless, you need to be an advocate for the fat community.
But the thing is like mid-sized folks don't see themselves in fat community. And I think that's where I struggle.
Yeah.
Carrie Dayton, again, if you want an example of someone who does it well, I think she's someone who does it well. Not someone that's never made a mishap. I think she's learned a lot about how to talk about being mid-size. She will often be like, oh, I got this thing from Target. It's available in plus size. Da, 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 da. She gives information. She knows she's on the line of straight size to plus size. And she acknowledges how things fit. And she gives information to her viewers who may be plus size, who may be fitting into the straight size.
Mm-hmm.
What I struggle with is mid-size influencers who only see themselves and their contemporaries as people their size or smaller. But like you noted, which I think is important, is that recreates itself at every size.
Yeah.
That recreates itself at every size. There could be people who are size 22 who only see themselves as like the size 24 and lower plus,
Mm-hmm.
that they don't want to think about the people above. So I agree with you. That idea, that way of doing things is at every size. There's people who...
I think that's why sorry, Rebecca. I think that's almost why people who are on the farthest end of the spectrum get so frustrated within our community, because look how many there are of us, and yet we still shop at stores that don't carry their sizes.
Yeah.
Well, it's because what other options do we have?
But there's not that many of them. I mean, it may seem like a lot of people because they're actively going out of their way to interact with them. But how many like size 30 plus people do you know in your life? You might know a handful, maybe, out of the hundreds of people that you know, but it's not that common. 14, 16, 18, 20, those sizes are probably the most common fat people you'll meet. You'll see some 22s, 24s, 26s, like maybe up to 30, but they're going to be shopping at the plus size stores like Torrid and Lane Bryant. Now, they're going to make the argument that the reason why you don't know about them is because they're not given space to be seen. They're not the ones being chosen for modeling gigs, or they're chosen for like TV and acting and things like that. They're not getting representation. Now, I'm one of those people where I'll actually make the argument that representation matters. I know. Shocker, right? But that's typically in regard to things like how until like only a few years ago, you couldn't name one Asian female pop star. But now we have a few. We have Lisa. She's from Thailand, but she's pretty famous in the US. I mean, it's not me, Lisa. Lisa from Thailand, right? You have like Olivia Rodrigo. She's of Filipino descent. It's not like people from like Asian backgrounds don't have great singing voices. They clearly do. But for some reason, there was kind of like this barrier for a lot of them to make it into the music industry. They really did have to go on like pure talent, overwhelming whatever was keeping them out. There's definitely an issue with representation when it comes to, I would say, Black people, especially overseas. Like, if you ever seen any kind of marketing for Star Wars, huge Star Wars fan, right? I showed all my stuff and like over here a few days ago, where they took like the main Black character out of the sequel series out of the posters from China. That happened. But there has been fat representation too. We had This Is Us. We had, what was her name? Chrissy Metz, and she was a very large woman who was a very good actress, but of a very large woman who was playing that role of somebody who was large, obviously. And so we had some representation there. And so people have seen it exist, but how many people the size of Chrissy Metz have you actually met in real life? Probably not many. And that's why I always make the argument that the market responds to demand. You're not going to have more stores, more availability, more representation unless there's actually more people there. And my goodness, we're trying to get there, I guess. People are gaining weight like crazy because, as I always say, our food is poison. Our education is terrible when it comes to health. But that's why we're doing things like this, right? That's why we're trying to educate people on how to get healthier. I'm losing weight. I'm showing you in real time me losing weight. I do update videos occasionally to talk about milestones. I might have one coming tomorrow. Anyways, yeah, let's get back into it. I think they've finally made the woman in the white shirt cowtail to their point of view. Girl, you should have stuck to your guns. You were right. Or at least as right as you can be in this argument when they're not really talking about anything of importance.
What?
No, I'm second guessing myself.
No, I don't think I followed that.
No, so like even some plus size stores like
Yeah.
don't carry
above a size 24 or something.
Right.
Oh, 100%.
So we're still shopping at them
100%.
because what options do we have? But also we're still making it okay for them to not have more sizes for people above us.
Oh,
you
I
know?
totally agree.
Yeah.
And that, like, that's something that that I, like we were talking about earlier in the episode, that like I struggle with. I struggle with, knowing that just 2 years ago, I could not shop at some of the places that I shop at now, right? And where else am I supposed to shop? So it's so hard. It's so hard. And I have been loving the discourse lately too, of like, Alyssa and I were at the pool the other day, and I saw a plus size girl, and I loved her 2-piece, but I knew exactly where it was from, right? And there's this discourse of like, yeah, we love each other's clothes, but I would love to look at you and say, hey, where did you get that badass outfit? And not, I know exactly where you got that outfit from, because we're seeing the same damn thing over and over and over, because we all have like the same 20 stores to shop from.
It's still about fashion. You're really upset about, hey, where did you get that from? That you can't say that? It's just so funny to me, because like fat liberation is so anti-capitalism, right? But the only reason why you have that much variety in general for clothing is because of capitalism. Now, what you're asking for essentially is capitalism to reflect things that you're willing to pay for. You want more stores so you can buy more stuff. Okay, god dang it, the socialists were right. just a little bit right here, right? I'm not saying I agree with them, but they're really, the fat people really are propping up capitalism. I'm not anti-capitalist, I'm very pro-capitalist. I like money. Remember, we renamed myself Bourgeois Lisa. I am Lisa King, okay? Like, with the crown and everything. But they're asking the market to reflect their needs. And if their needs are as representative of society at large as they're claiming it is, then hey, eventually capitalism will follow and you can continue to prop it up. But then guess what? You're no longer in line with fat liberation. You're advocating for fast fashion. There's some ethical conundrums there. And you're advocating for more stores to sell you more stuff that you can give your money to, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
it's so much better in America than other countries. Oh my gosh.
That I do know. But no, back to your point, I think
that's why.
I think it was so brilliant of you, Rebecca, to help us get to that moment of understanding. Yes, I am specifically talking about the online community.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about our best friends. I'm not talking about our cousins or whoever's, right?
Yeah.
I am talking about the people who are specifically
marketing off the term.
Marketing it, and
it's interesting. I don't feel like I follow a lot of those people, and good.
And
well, I mean, yeah, especially they're doing Carrie Dayton. Check her out; she's awesome.
Oh, I'll check her out.
But the thing is, I do follow people in all different kinds of bodies, right?
I love how that little interaction they just had is very representative of what I've been saying this entire time, that the internet is not a real place and you should stop treating it like it's a real place. The concept literally did not exist to the woman in the white shirt because what did she say? I don't follow those people. So it didn't exist to her. It didn't exist in her real freaking life because she wasn't following it online, which goes to show just how much power online has, which is nothing unless you give it power. The internet, I guess, is a real place because it is to these people, right? They're mad at things happening on Instagram and they're calling it discrimination and lack of access.
Right. And so I do see a lot of it. I see a lot of it, and I see it done well, and I see it done very badly.
Yeah, there's absolutely people who do it well.
Yeah, 100%. But there are people who do use it in a way to say, I'm not with them.
Yeah.
You know, I know, I realize they're saying it, they're almost using it in a way to say, hey, I realize I'm not a Victoria's Secret model, but I'm definitely not what they are.
Yeah.
And it's harmful.
Yeah.
But again, I am not talking about our best friends
Yeah.
walking down the street.
No, I'm with you.
I'm talking about the girl who is literally like, you should shop where I shop and give me your money off of my, let me earn commissions off of you, because I do understand them having that platform allows our mid-sized friends and cousins, whoever, to find people who look like them to say, hey, that dress looks good on her body, so it might look good on my body. I 100% want that for them, because finding Rebecca on Instagram for me years and years and years ago started, finding people like Rebecca started that for me, started my journey, right? So I want that for everybody. Like, if you find people that it's helpful for you to see these pieces that you want to wear, but you're afraid or whatever, like you see it on a body that looks like yours, you're like, you know what, I'm going to do that. 100%. I want that for you. I want that for you. It's the online community that I want to do better.
Yeah, and listen, like, again, this happens at larger sizes too. Again, like, whenever I was a size 28, 30, did I feel absolutely excluded from people who are size 22, 24? Yes. Yeah. I felt like they did not want to be associated with me due to sizism. Like, I think it happens on every scale. I will say, if you're listening and you're curious about some things, like, there are brands that go up to higher sizes. I will say what's not accessible is the price point of those brands. A lot of them are doing their own manufacturing or having to do special manufacturing because it's not an industry standard. And that's frustrating. I mean, listen, larger folks are going to find discrimination at work. Like, they're probably not making the best money. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, they're already facing that barrier most likely. And then this. The other thing I would say is, if you are online,
what evidence does she have about discrimination against fat people, them not making as much money? Because, like, I gotta tell you, I was a size 26 and I was making a pretty decent amount of money. Now, I work from home. Nobody can really see how big I am. I'm still making money. But when I was in person, my size never precluded me from having a job. Now, being able to keep that job, let's acknowledge that. Because I always say the biggest access is your own mobility, right? One of the reasons why I had to go teletherapy was because I couldn't handle the amount of pain I was in. My body couldn't handle the sicknesses I was getting from, because I worked in the school systems, like getting from kids who were getting me sick. My immune system couldn't handle it because I was really, really super fat, right? And so I just was exhausted at the end of each day. And I got myself to a point where I was like, I can't do this in person anymore. I have to go work from home. And I haven't regretted it since. Okay. I really enjoy working from home. You save on a lot of things like workplace drama, but also now I can actually take care of my body. I've got myself to that point. Am I saying everybody's capable of doing that? No. But honestly, most people are interviewing like online. Because I got to tell you, if you're working in the school system, a lot of fat people. There's fat teachers, there's fat principals, there's fat administrators. I've seen them all. Okay. School administrators make a lot of money. Just telling you, you can be one of them. But just to make the assumption that they're not making as much money because they're fat, it's like, girl, you have no proof of that. Now, if there's anything, I would say energy levels keep you from working harder. So the less energy that you have, the more difficult it is to put the effort into the excess work that you would need to get a promotion, to go further in your career, things like that. I know for myself, going into grad school, I lost like 85 pounds before I went to grad school. Now I'm not there yet. I was down to 245 when I entered grad school. And then I tell this story a lot. I had a doctor that really screwed me over and I regained a bunch of the weight. COVID happened very soon after that. And it was just a whole host of compounding things that really contributed to my weight gain. I always thought it was my responsibility to lose it, but those things happened. Things happen in life. But I don't think I could have gone through grad school and how much energy I needed to get through it if I hadn't started at that lower weight. I also don't think I would have gotten through grad school without birth control. Now that's really controversial. I'm off birth control now, but I had such severe symptoms of PCOS. Like it would have been impossible. I had struggled to keep a job before that as an English teacher in Japan, simply because of how significant my PCOS was and how it affected me. Fortunately, I had a very low key job in Japan, but even then it was extremely difficult. My fatness had nothing to do with, my fatness in some part, like definitely helped cause the PCOS. I don't think cause it, but it made it worse. Okay. I had PCOS before I was even that fat. But my whole point about bringing this up is certain things preclude you from being able to access higher wages. And those things are not what you look like and assuming someone's discriminating against you. It's how much work can you put in? How much energy do you have? Because if you're a really huge person, my goodness, you need a lot more recovery time, a lot more downtime than somebody who's smaller. And that's just a fact. And I can tell you that for a fact because I've been in both situations. And it only gets easier the smaller that you get.
And you follow people, like, I think you mentioned following me and seeing that. When I first got onto blogs, I was like fascinated finding people that looked like me. Okay. Don't stop there.
Yeah.
Don't stop there.
Yeah.
Follow people, different ages, genders, races, different bodies that fit your message. Like that, don't go follow them just because they're diverse.
Yeah.
Like that actually add value to your feed, and follow people that are bigger than you. And I will say, most likely they're getting less support. So consider supporting them. Consider showing them support in some kind of way. I will just say, like, these terms are
Sally.
helpful because they do have a way of people talking to each other and talking about their experiences. And then we have a term we can say, like, hey, I get you're fat, but like I'm a super fat and I have a very different experience. And I love that people can say those things.
Yeah.
And people can use them to find each other and all of that stuff, right? But what I think the most essential part of that terminology for me and understanding the spectrum is understanding the different barriers that people face in social and material ways. And that it's not about how we feel about our bodies. Because again, none of us get free from that thing.
I just love she had to like throw in material. That's why I was laughing. I'm not laughing that people have barriers. I'm laughing because, as stated, I've been waiting for her to talk about more barriers other than fashion. Somebody in my comments from the previous video that I did on this for part 3 said that she wishes the woman in the glasses had talked more about what barriers her father faced, considering he was apparently significantly larger than her. And she was getting emotional talking about it, but she didn't go into detail. And we're like, that would have been a perfect opportunity to discuss that. But instead, it's so self-focused and it's so they can't go outside their personal experience. And if they had personal experience where they could actually talk about this discrimination in depth and the supposed treatment they've received, I think they would do it. Instead, they're still talking about fashion.
But like actually how we get to go about this world. Because if you're struggling to feel good about your body and you can't even go to the mall and go to the food court and sit in a seat, that is going to be a different thing to struggle with than feeling bad about your body and slipping into that damn booth.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just a different thing that's going to be out in the world confirming or denying your feelings. Right.
Yeah.
And I just think that this language asks us to recognize that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important when we do look into this or talk about it, or anyone gets on the mid-size or not debate, because there is a debate about it, that they remember it's not just about how people feel, but how they actually experience the world.
Yeah. 100%.
I think you did a really beautiful job there, wrapping up like all of our thoughts and feelings. And I also want to say that, like, I know I'm still learning, you know?
Yeah.
And I hope when people listen, they don't feel, I'm worried that people are going to feel not represented
Mm.
by the terms.
When she says she's still learning, all I heard was, I'm still being indoctrinated. Like, this woman in the white shirt is being behaviorally reinforced by the other two women. And it's kind of strange to see her kind of be, it's not a full on struggle session because they didn't tell her that she was doing anything wrong, but there's definitely a peer pressure there where they're reinforcing her behavior and saying you need to think this way for these reasons, but they can't actually give her any other concrete example other than the ones that we've talked about, which is fashion and seat sizes. Okay, they said airplanes, but that comes down to seat sizes. That's basically what it is: fashion, seat sizes. And now we have the vague allusions to discrimination, making less money, etc. But even then, when we're talking about making less money, it's being able to buy more clothes. I wish I could take the woman in the white shirt by the hand and be like, woman, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. Leave now. Like, what was that? The movie Get Out. Get out. That's what I would do.
And how we view them.
Mm.
So I feel like I want to also open up the conversation for people to come and join us and share maybe what they've seen online or who they're following.
Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love
Yeah.
for people to join us down in the comments because, like, mid fat, I'm fat, and I did identify as super fat, but like
I just am fat.
Yeah, same. I don't
Listen, I can't make it more complicated right now because those levels really did start to give me a little like anxiety. I'm fat and I'm gonna work on being good with that and not shrinking myself intentionally, and I'm just gonna live.
Yeah.
Yep.
Period.
Well, I mean, I don't agree with the whole shrinking yourself intentionally thing, but I do think it's actually a healthier mindset to think of yourself as just fat. Now, I will talk about the whole I'm entering my small fat era, etc. thing kind of as a joke because it's not something I actually buy into. It's just like, hey, we got to have our own milestones. We got to keep ourselves going, to keep the encouragement happening, to keep us moving forward. I hate that they think about weight loss as in shrinking yourself intentionally. I hope she's able to get help. I think she can still be saved. Help her.
Well, and I think it is important to recognize again that this is a way, this is a tool, right? It's a tool. It's a tool that people can use to communicate with each other, to identify and all these things. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change who you are.
Way to go, Allie.
It doesn't change how we feel about you, how we feel about you, our viewers and our listeners. It doesn't change who you are because somebody has slapped a label on you or because you've slapped a label on yourself, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You slap the label on yourself. But she's right. It doesn't change who you are. So then why are you doing it? No questions were answered in this podcast.
I have changed since I started openly calling myself fat. And I love that for me, but it's just a word.
Yeah.
It is just a word. And these are just words. And what's more important behind these words is the work that we do behind them.
And we are fat.
And we're fab.
And we're friends.
We'll see you next time, guys. Bye.
We did it, guys. We made it through that entire podcast. And what did you think? That was such a weird, bland way to end an episode. Doesn't change who you are as a person. Like I said, nothing got answered. Nothing got properly explained. There was really no point to that, okay? Navigating the spectrum, access, still don't know anything about that other than fashion and seat sizes. I just hope that at some point somebody makes a video where they actually talk about different types of discrimination that might be occurring, because then we could actually do something about it and maybe be a little bit more empathetic. And I'm fully willing to be empathetic if it's a real issue. I've yet to see a real issue be presented to me at this point. If we do want to talk about real issues, it's always going to come down to things that I talk about all the time, which are the dietary guidelines of America and how the food sucks and how our guidelines are terrible and how people are just getting fatter because we are giving in more special interest groups who lobby the government to subsidize processed foods. And so they become more affordable, people can buy them, etc. Instead of, say, for example, using that money in subsidizing organic foods, things that are healthier, make those things cheaper and more affordable. And then, hey, guess what? more people can buy them, right? I don't think it's actually going to change habits. I think people are going to spend more money on stuff regardless, but then they won't have the excuse anymore. And really, they don't have the excuse now. Okay, processed food, even subsidized, is still getting more and more expensive. That's just my little tangent on the whole matter. And my whole point about saying this is that there's actually things that we can do to fix this problem. They're not talking about those things. They're talking about, I had to shop at Torrid and everybody else is shopping at Torrid and we're all wearing the same stuff. Ew. Well, geez, I'm sorry. If only there were worse things going on in the world. Oh, wait, there is. There's people out there who actually face real discrimination. This isn't one of them. Oh, but guys, I thank you for joining me here on this journey of descending into insanity. I'm now going to claw my way back out and edit this video so I can put it out tomorrow. Don't know how long that's going to take. I'm at 55 minutes recording right now. Hopefully I can get it under 40 when I actually put it out. I hope you all have a good evening. And like I said, there's a special video coming out on Friday morning as well, where I can make an announcement, an exciting, progress update. And guys, you have a great evening. I'll talk to you later. Bye.